Yes, it's a pleasure. I'm really excited about this topic because this is what every business owner I think is very curious about, how AI and humans can work side by side to help SMEs grow faster, smarter, and stronger. So, Peter, let's start off this with you. Let's kick things off with you. After our last episode, one thing I learned that stood out to me about Syrvi AI is how you don't frame it as AI replacing people, but rather as AI joining the team. Most companies either go all in on automation or maybe keep things completely people led. Why do you think this hybrid model, AI plus human, is the real sweet spot for SMEs?
Thank you for the question. Great question. I think there is still a misconception on what AI can and cannot do, and this causing fear amongst the people and employees and sometimes business owners as well. This is what we experiencing as well. So the hybrid model works because it leverages the irreplaceable strength of both humans and AI as well, because we all have strengths and weaknesses. So do AI. It's pure automation phase because businesses is ultimately about relationships, and relationship require empathy, creativity, and those nuanced understanding that only humans possess. Conversely, pure human-led sales teams are limited by time, energy, and consistency. So there are things humans are great and excel, and there are things AI excels. Our hybrid approach lets AI handle the heavy lifting, qualifying thousands of leads on scale, personalizing tens of thousands of leads, even on scale, creating content and managing follow-ups as well. So human teams actually can focus on what they're really good at, which is emotional intelligence, closing deals, building relationships. This is a human thing, creativity. These are what we are excelling, and this is what the message we always passing to our clients as well. That let your team and yourself as well. Let's grow and using the skills and things we have, and let's AI does all the rest for us, and let's empower your team.
Mhm. Well, that makes so much sense, Peter, because at the end of the day, business is still about relationships and you can't automate empathy. And I like how you frame it as AI amplifying the human side rather than actually replacing it. So, Ispan, building on that, once AI takes over the repetitive, time consuming tasks or maybe the boring ones, what door does that open for human teams? Where do you see leaders being able to really focus their people power?
Yes, absolutely. So, very good question, and again, it's one that a lot of times get asked. To be honest with you, so we look at this as a bit of a liberation process, if you know what I mean. So when AI liberates your team from those repetitive tasks,
Uh-huh.
there's a few things that happen. So firstly, strategic thinking, which means that your team can finally sort of analyze market trends, develop new offerings, and innovate rather than just execute. Secondly, you've also got things like the I think that Peter could have sort of mentioned relationship deepening. Working on those relationships that we humans really do with one another. So instead of chasing new leads constantly, they can actually nurture those existing clients, and yeah, in effect, there's a potential for increasing lifetime value of those clients, which of course for the business is really quite important. And one of the third opportunities there is skill development. So
Mhm.
once you've freed up from the mundane tasks, repetitiveness, you have your teams who can then upskill in certain areas, like consultative selling, for example,
Mhm.
or just various industry expertise, and even strategic account management, which is also a key aspect of growth. So leaders probably really should be focusing the people power, and also certain aspects of it. I've given this a little three C's, which is creative problem solving, complex negotiations, and client success. So those are your three C's. And these are the areas where human intuition and that emotional intelligence can create the exponential value that AI at this point cannot replicate. Now we don't know obviously what's going to happen in the future, but at this point, this is where the human element is really powerful, and I think that that's where that combination comes in really well, and that's why I think what we're experiencing, the whole thing really works very well.
Mhm. So the powerful three C's: creative
Yes,
problem solving, complex negotiations, and client success. Yeah.
essentially.
And that sounds very ideal. And I love that. Waking up and finding your calendar already filled with qualified appointments while AI is quietly working in the background. And I guess that's more than just being efficient. That actually gives them peace of mind. And of course, with every new tech, there's also the human factor. So, Istvan, in your experience, how do employees usually react when AI suddenly joins the team? I mean, is it excitement, resistance, or somewhere in between? And how do you help companies manage that transition?
yeah, look, in our experience, the reaction is surprisingly positive, but I think it has to be said that it needs to be positioned correctly. So, most employees are actually frustrated by repetitive tasks. I think
Yeah.
I don't know too many people who really enjoy the sort of mundane things. People actually really enjoy when they can really truly add value and they do meaningful work. Now I know that means different things to different people, but repetitive things when you're doing things over and over and it's just a what I call a tick box exercise. Most people don't really enjoy that. So it's true for the majority of the working population. So when people actually understand AI handles those mundane tasks so they can focus on strategic and more strategic things. So the excitement starts to build. We kind of see three different phases in this. So there's the initial apprehension. So as you can imagine, anything new, people don't actually really like change. I think that's a fact. At least not everyone likes change.
Yeah.
So there is that apprehension, and then there's the sort of curious experimentation phase, if you wish, when people are like, okay, well, I'm just going to give this a try. I'm going to
Mhm.
try that and see how that works. Or just let's just see and then see what comes back. And once that's over, and then, this actually takes place reasonably quickly, to be honest. Then you sort of move on to the phase of advocacy, when people, okay, well, this is actually
Mhm.
works. This is something I'm happy to really continue with, if you know what I mean.
Explore.
So there is this transformation when they experience this first AI win, um, and again that's really really useful because obviously that's how we humans really tend to learn things, tend to like things with this sort of positive reinforcement. So if things work and they actually help me, and then I start to like it. If it doesn't work for me, if it makes my life more difficult, then of course I'm not going to like it. But we tend to have the positive aspect of it. So if someone can, you know, close a deal because something that they wouldn't have otherwise, of course that's going to be a great win.
Mhm.
If they can finish work on time or even earlier, because AI handles some of those things that normally sort of gets pushed down on the priority order, but they need to get done, and they tend to get done at like 5 o'clock when that you actually meant to be going home and picking your kids up. So all these are really good wins for people. And then of
Mhm.
course, we help companies navigate this by, creating various things like AI champions, so people who really sort of get behind it and really understand it right from the get-go.
Mhm.
And of course, they can celebrate those collaborative wins,
Yeah.
when they're all winning. So there's lots of things, but the data really sort of speaks for itself. So there's an overwhelming number of employees report higher job satisfaction than perhaps they were before they started using it. So overall, the picture is quite positive.
Mhm. Well, that's a very refreshing take, Eastman. Instead of people fearing replacement, they're actually finding more satisfaction in their work through adding value to the organization, as you've said. And once AI takes over the boring stuff or the repetitive stuff, and I'm sure a lot of us will find comfort in hearing that. So, why don't we take a look ahead a little. If we fast forward 5 years, Istvan, what role do you see this human AI partnership playing in the way SMEs compete with much larger players?
Yeah, that's an interesting take. We have a lot of conversation with people about this, like, where would this be in 2 years' time? Where
Yeah,
would this be in 5 years' time? And it's always difficult because the speed of change is quite rapid when it comes to AI. So, but our take on it is that, look, at the moment, in 5 years' time, I would say human and AI synergy will not actually be an advantage. It will be basically the minimum requirement for an SMEs for survival. And that's the bottom line, because at the moment we are seeing a lot of uptake from small to medium businesses. So the
hmm,
ones that don't, I think they will find it tricky quite quickly. So they will probably have to start catching up fairly soon. Um, so this is the exciting part is, excuse me, the exciting part is that I think SMEs will actually have a bit of an edge over the enterprises, which is, I know it's strange because normally it's the other way around.
yeah,
So I think while large corporations sort of struggle with things like legacy systems, and often the change in larger organizations is more difficult to manage and more difficult to some of the analogies that previous companies I worked for in my previous life, they always said, turning an oil tanker around is a lot more difficult than a little small boat, a paddle boat.
right.
And I think you kind of an SME is like a small boat that you can row, versus a smart, a large enterprise is more like an oil tanker. So
Hmm.
it is that aspect of it. So we are going to see this sort of David beating Goliath stories, I think, when, for example, a 10-person company will start winning against a 1,000-person enterprise, because they were able to adopt these AI technologies and integrate them into their business. So yeah, so there's a bit of this SMEs that will start to master synergy to operate with the efficiency of algorithms, but creativity and adaptability of a startup. So a lot of change ahead, I think, and then we'll start to see this market previously impossible due to resource constraints. So I predict that we'll see potentially some billion-pound or billion-dollar SMEs emerging over the next sort of 5 years. Again, it's really hard to predict at this point, but there's certainly
Hmm.
a lot of things that these small businesses can adopt, which are very sophisticated AI systems, and they can compete globally, while they still maintain their local authenticity, which really what
Hmm.
makes them SMEs. So interesting times ahead, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but that's kind of how I see it.
Hmm. Would you like to add something, Peter?
I think Istvan very well summarized the thing. Yeah, it's very impossible. I don't think I want to even look at 5 years ahead. I think even 1.5 years is going to be significant changes. I don't think
Yeah.
that we even going to recognize what's happening now in 5 years. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to go very, very far, but we see we see the speed of the AI development and improvement, and in 5 years it's just too long. It's just too far away. It's so many things going to change. There are going to be complete sectors and industries going to be completely changed,
Mm-hmm.
or even disappeared. Some jobs going to be completely disappeared, but also there are other jobs going to be created because of this. So there's always an element of change. But in 5 years, I see a huge and very significant changes in a good way for SMEs. And as Ishvan mentioned, yeah, those sooner adopting to this are going to be in a better position. And I know I hear sometimes, I think it's important to mention here, I hear sometimes this AI, bubble going to be burst and all the rest is not a bubble. I mean, AI is here. It's gonna stay here, and it's just gonna be stronger. It's like when in the 50s and 60s the computer came, and then
Yeah.
in Microsoft and then Excel, and first people didn't really know what to do. With the computer, didn't even get it. No businesses, and then Excel and all the rest of and Microsoft came out and all that, and suddenly now we know where we are. So
Mm-hmm.
this cannot even survive computer and all the rest. And AI is going to be even. even more significant
Yeah.
than the computer was in the 50s and 60s. So it's never going to turn back. The excitement might be going to be dropping slightly, but AI is here, it's going to stay here, it's going to completely and forever change our life, the business as well, and our life as well personally.